Now, you're so strong when it comes to the freedom and dignity of the Iranian people, but you have different meaning of freedom and dignity when it comes to the Palestinian people who've been brutalized for over 50 years of occupation.
The Palestinians now have to show their will that they want to come to the table. As of now, they're not coming to the table, but they ask for aid. We're not giving the aid. We're going to make sure that they come to the table, and we want to move forward with the peace process.
So, as you just heard there, the US ambassador to the UN has revealed Trump's plans to stop funding a UN agency that's giving aid to Palestinians, refugees. Shortly after that, the US leader himself then suggested cutting donations to the Palestinian administration. In fact, in a tweet, he claims that despite giving them hundreds of millions of dollars a year, he says they show no appreciation or respect to the US because of it. Trump also went on to suggest cutting aid because, according to him, the Palestinians aren't willing to talk peace with Israel. However, that's something that the Palestinian administration doesn't at all agree with. The president's office there says that Jerusalem, in fact, is not for sale and that they're not backing away from negotiations, but went on to stress that these negotiations should be based on international law. Last year, the Palestinian Authority received around $300 million in aid from the US. It's a big sum, but that pales in comparison to the $3 billion that Israel received from Washington. Let's get the view now from Mustafa Barghouti, the General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, joining us live. Sir, thanks for your time. I suppose, end of the day, like it or not, it is, after all, Washington and the President's decision about where American money should be spent or not, no?
Let me say, first of all, that the worst thing in his statement, in his Twitter, was his declaration that he's taking off the issue of Jerusalem from the table of negotiations. He's deciding unilaterally what Israel wants. And he still wants us to come to the table, which is empty. He wants us to come to the table that is empty because he already nullified the possibility of discussion about settlements, about borders, and now he's taking off Jerusalem off the table. That is, of course, not serious, but it shows how biased this American administration is to Israel.
Although, of
on
course,
the issue of money,
he's been pretty universally, that decision's been pretty universally disagreed with, so I suppose you're going to take some heart from that. Nevertheless, do you still want money from America or not?
No, we don't. Let me explain why. The main beneficiary from the money that is coming to Palestinian Authority is Israel. You might be surprised about that, but most of that money goes to funding security cooperation with Israel. And Israel is in need for that security cooperation, not Palestinians. And more than that, let me tell you that the other money that they spend on NGOs is, you lose about 50% of it, which goes back to the United States in the form of administrative expenses.
Just to make this clear for our viewers,
that we are not dependent.
Does the money come directly to the Palestinian Authority then, or not?
It does, but big part of it is devoted to security cooperation, to security needs of Israel. And more than that, let me explain, we are not dependent on foreign aid. As a matter of fact, the total amount of money that is coming from Europe, from the States, and from Arab countries is no more than 16% of the budget of the Palestinian Authority, while the public Palestinians are paying with their taxes 84% of the cost of the Palestinian Authority. In my opinion, taking away that money is not going to affect us seriously, so he can take it away. But what would affect the Palestinians badly is his plan to cut off support to UNRWA, which is a United Nations agency that is providing humanitarian aid in the form of education and healthcare to Palestinian refugees who were ethnically cleansed by Israel from their homeland, Palestine. And in my opinion, now the international community has to step in and replace the American funding, because you cannot allow a collapse of humanitarian needs in refugee camps all over the world.
Is that likely to happen anytime soon, that the rest of the community around the world steps in to replace these missing funds?
They should, because this is a UN mission and it's a UN obligation that is determined by UN resolutions. It's about refugees, and the world cannot turn its back to the needs of these refugees till they have the right to come back home. And they will not come back home soon, because Mr. Trump is emptying the table and still demands that Palestinians come to that empty table.
Yeah, I was going to say, as we head into a new year now, where do we stand on negotiations? On one hand, we've got Trump saying you're not going to have any more money, the Palestinians, because you don't want to negotiate. You say, yeah, we want to negotiate, but because Trump's saying Jerusalem's off the table, it ain't going to happen. Where is it going to go over the next 12 months, and will there be more protests?
There is no way that the United States can play a role of a mediator under Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump and his administration and his envoys on the issue of Palestinian-Israeli issues have shown that they are totally and completely biased to Israel. You cannot be biased to one side and play the role of a mediator. Actually, he's playing the role of a biased partner to Israel, and Israel is using them to pressure the Palestinians. If we want a real peace process, it has to be within an international forum with parties that are impartial, parties that respect international law, which Mr. Trump is now violating by imposing facts unilaterally about Jerusalem and participating in violating that international law.
Mustafa Barghouti, General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, thank you for your time and being live on Art International.